Hey, bitches, and welcome back to Meg Talks Podcast. I know it's been forever since I've last uploaded. My life has kind of just gotten in the way of making a new one, and I've been super, super busy. And honestly, recently, I've been mentally and physically exhausted. But I am finally excited to be able to sit down and make a new podcast. I have been asked to do this by multiple people in the past since I posted the first one, to be honest. So here it is. I do want to go ahead and make a few statements before we get started into anything. Number one, this podcast caused a little bit of drama. The last one I posted, the only one I posted. And with that being said, I just want to say if I mention an event that happens to do with like yo baby daddy, yo sister, your mother, your dad, your brothers, your ex-boyfriend, my ex-boyfriends, whoever, it's in the past. And I told myself I was going to be brutally honest on this podcast. It's not to intentionally attack anybody, it's not to cause pain. And if it does, and you're still stuck in the past, shit that happened over 2 years ago, there's an issue within yourself. That's not my intention. I'm just speaking on experiences. With that being said, I'm definitely not going to sugarcoat anything, but I'm not going to try to hurt anybody. That's not my intention once again. I've been asked to do this for years and to discuss like my experiences, what I've gone through. And also a lot of people would come to me and ask me questions about certain things. And so I felt like that this was going to be an easier way to talk to more than just one person or having to retype something I've said a billion times. It's just a little bit easier. It's my goal to help people, not to harm people, and that's why I made this podcast. So, somebody said in my last podcast, I name dropped. I did, and I don't care. I will try not to name drop certain people, and that's because I have so, so, so much respect for them. So, I don't want to, but if it accidentally happens, then it does. This is past. This isn't necessarily future. I mean, some of it could be future. Some of it could be right now shit. But a lot of it is in my past. So don't hold on to the names. Hold on to the part of or the point, excuse me, of the freaking story. It is, like I said, it's just my goal just to talk and help people. It's never been my goal to freaking cause unnecessary, stupid drama. I do want to go ahead and also make this statement. I will cuss. There will be conversations about sex, drinking, drugs, miscarriages, and all kinds of stuff to that effect. So if you are under the age of 18, I would prefer you not listen because some of these things are things that I don't want to put into young children's minds. And if you choose to listen, that's on you, but I ask that you don't. This podcast was supposed to be about the experiences that I've endured in my lifetime to hopefully help somebody who may be going through the same thing. One thing about me is that I will never speak of things that I've never experienced ever. That wouldn't be fair to the person who is asking me for advice to act like I know something when I don't and I've been through the same pain as them. Also, never take me as selfish because I'm talking about me, myself, and I. It's what this podcast is about. Now, once I get guests on here, it'll be a little bit different. But as I said in my first one, for the first few podcasts, I kind of wanted just to let you guys get to know me a little bit more for the people who don't. If you do not fuck with this podcast, if you do not want to listen to this podcast, nobody is holding a gun to your head saying you have to listen. It is as simple as clicking off of the video. Truly, it is. And if you choose to stay to listen, that is on you. And you can't blame anybody but yourself. So, let's get started. I do have a list of questions to answer, and then I'll move on and get to the meat of this whole podcast. This one may or may not be a little longer than normal, just because the topic that we are going to be discussing is very near and dear to my heart. First question: have I ever had a pregnancy scare? Yes, I have. Multiple. What was your longest relationship and with who? My son's father in almost 5 years. Have you ever cheated on someone? I have. Have you ever been in a polyamorous relationship? I have. Have you ever been in a monogamous relationship but with more than one person? No. What is your experience with women causing unnecessary drama over small things? I have lots of experience in that, and it's like I said previously a few seconds ago. It's stupid. It's people I hate that. People live in the past so much and they can't move on and they hold grudges, and that's what makes life hell. Instead of assuming, talk to the person that you're making accusations about and rumors about, and then maybe you would get a truthful answer instead of causing more and more issues in that person's life just because something happened between you and them or you and whoever years ago. The next question is: have you found it easier to make friendships with men or women? Men. Have you ever had sex with a group bigger than a threesome? If so, how many? I have had a threesome. I've never necessarily had sex with a group bigger than three people, but me and my daughter's dad had sex in front of a room full of people. Nobody else joined, though. If you could go back in the past and relive the first sexual encounter you had with someone, who would it be and why? Hmm. Um, I'm not even going to say an initial here just to avoid the bullshit drama, but because because it was crazy and wild, and because it was something so unexpected, and he did things that I did not expect him to do, and I would, yeah. And would you go do it again? I, anyways, next question. What is the most orgasms you've had in a single session, and who made you orgasm that many times? Um, I don't know, like 10, 11, and my son's dad and Jay, which you'll hear more about later. What is the most amount of people you've had sex with in a 24-hour period, and who? Four, and I will say three initials: D, D, N, and then there's one more initial missing from that. What was your best sexual experience, and how can you elaborate on why? What was your best sexual experience? Um, that is going to be something that we will talk about whenever we get into the meat of this podcast. So I will definitely come back and answer that question. What makes the best sexual experiences? Honestly, to me, I think a man who can sense when a woman is feeling unconfident in the bedroom. I think that a man who can make that woman feel more comfortable. I think a man who takes his time and puts in effort to see what the woman wants instead of only worrying about his own nut. I think that also enthusiasm is a really big part. Like, I'm an extremely auditorial person. So talking, obviously not talking like about what you're about to have for dinner, but that's something else we're going to get on to later in the podcast. I think people who just care about each other, who want to satisfy each other, and the feeling is mutual between both sides, that's what makes the best sexual experiences. At what age did I lose my virginity and to whom? My ex Tyler in 14 or 15. Have you ever had sex with someone of a different race? I have. What is the different types of drugs you've done? I'm not gonna list the types, but I will say there's like four or five. Um, how many sex toys do you have currently? 42. What is your favorite? My vibrator. If you had to have sex with one with some Oh, if you had had sex with somebody of the other race, was there anything different? No. Do you watch porn? If so, what are you looking for first? BDSM. Have you ever watched porn with a partner? I have. What is your favorite place to have sex and why? Example, bed, shower, car. So this person, I know her intention behind that question, and I love her for it. And if you hear squeaking, those are my guinea pigs. I do apologize. Um, bed, shower, and car. I'm just gonna use her examples. I would have sex anywhere, so this is why I'm about to use her examples. So in a bed, it's a little bit different because you can actually do more things. A shower, I personally am too insecure, but have I done it before? Yes, and it was great because of the person I the person I did it with mainly, who I will not name because I know better. But I mean, I've done it with all my exes too. It's just, it's more of, like I said, a very insecure thing, and the only reason I was able to do it with this one person is because the lights were off. So, anyways, but it added an extra level of, it was very intense, hmm, to say the least. Anyways, stop. A car. Now, girlfriend, I ought to get you for this question because you know, but I was squished. But you got to do it where you can do it at. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. That is all I'm gonna say. What is my favorite sexual position and why? Anything I'm being dominated in, and it's because I'm a submissive. What is the dirtiest thing you've searched for on your phone? I guess porn. I mean, I don't think that's really dirty. Have you ever had feelings with someone that was taken? Yeah. What is the worst thing you've ever sent to the wrong person? A nude. Who was the hottest person you've kissed? Um, Once again, can't say the initial. Moving on. What is my biggest sexual fear? I think it's not meeting somebody who can satisfy me the way I need to be satisfied. Um, I am so into the submission or submissive, however you want to say it, role that I have to have somebody who is extremely dominant in order for myself to be satisfied. What is the most desperate thing that you've ever done to get noticed? I mean, I'm a very sexual, sensual person as is, so everything I do, like, it's just very over animated. So I don't think I've ever done anything desperate. I just be myself. What's the biggest mistake I've made in bed? um, Sleeping with my ex Zach because he had a small dick. Excuse me. Once again, I'm not trying to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm just being brutally honest. Do you prefer to give or receive? I prefer to give as I am a submissive. Last place you had Last place and time you had sex and with whom and where did you do it at? Number one, bitch, I know why you asked me that question. I cannot state a name and I cannot say exactly where, but I can say it was in my car last month. Moving on. So that was the last bit of those questions before we get into the meat of this conversation. Now, I do want to go ahead and advise before I get started on this that this topic has been requested so freaking much. Like, it has been requested to the point that I just kind of said, fuck it, and we'll just make a majority of a podcast about it. This is going to be the longest part of the podcast. I know some of you guys were expecting a more drama filled podcast, and things like that, but due to this being so highly requested, I wanted to go ahead and get this one out of the way first. And then we'll move on to more deeper shit in later podcasts. So, today's podcast is going to be about BDSM. And I'm pretty sure you could have guessed it. Um, as I said, this was highly requested. I have some really good questions that people have asked, and we're just trying to figure out, what it is and things like that. So, first things first, what is BDSM? BDSM stands for bondage. The D stands for domination or discipline. S stands for submissive or sadism. And M stands for masculinism. And I know I said that word wrong, so do not come at me for it. And with that being said, a lot of people don't know what sadism is or masculinism. Sadism is somebody who likes to inflict pain or humiliate, and a masculist is somebody who likes to receive that pain and humiliation. Submissives and masculists most of the time go hand in hand, just like sadists and doms go hand in hand. Some doms just aren't at the level of sadism, and some subs just aren't at the level of masculinism. But there's a lot of it goes hand in hand. So there's that. And this question I want to answer before I start answering any questions, going into one of my favorite experiences with my previous dom, things like that, just simply because I there's such a stigma around BDSM, and it irritates my soul. I'm going to be honest with you. BDSM isn't just about the punishment. Punishment is going to be a part of it, but it's not what it's all about. And I hate that people believe that that is what it is all about, because it's truly not. Um for me, it has a much deeper meaning. For actually a lot of submissives and a lot of doms, it has a deeper meaning that a lot of people are actually shocked about. Like, have you ever seen 50 Shades of Grey and you take out the sex scenes and you realize what he is saying to her in regards to why he does what he does? His is more of a trauma response. But for me personally, it's about losing all control and giving myself over to somebody completely. I am in control of myself, my two kids. I'm in control of my household, my pets, my car, my life. I am responsible for my two babies' lives, for five guinea pigs' life, and a fish's life. I'm responsible for waking my daughter up every day and getting her in the school bus. I'm responsible for going to work and still taking care of my son who has medical issues. I am responsible for, helping people and helping my family out as needed. I'm responsible for so many things that at the end of the day, to have a dominant in your life who will take that control away and make you feel free, although you are pleasing him, it's a different feeling. It's like a weight is lifted off your shoulders because you're not focused on the stressful things that happened that day. You're focused on pleasing this person who is standing in front of you that you trust because he is your dom. If that makes sense. It may not until you're in the situation, but it's truly so much deeper than just being slapped in the face. I promise. Now, surface level, if you just try it, you'll see where I'm coming from. It's hot as fuck. Um so I did have a few questions in regards to a few things that have to do with BDSM and like kinks. So let me go ahead and answer a few of them. The first question is who got you into this world? I've known you for a long time, and yes, where you are a very sexual person. You've always been since high school. What made you go this deep into this world of BDSM? Number one, it's very I told you, I'm a very sexual sensual person. I've been that way since I was probably 16. It's just who I am. I haven't always been to this level of submissiveness. I necessarily haven't ever been this into a lot of the things that I'm into, and some of it is dark. Um and I wish I can go into detail, but there's one person in particular who, and I will mention Jay because that's my first experience with an actual dom that I will explain. But this one person who I've not mentioned but mentioned multiple times in this podcast, he kind of showed me a little bit of a domination side. I mean, my father, my son's father, he was very dominant person. You know, he liked to choke and stuff like that. But it was more of a it was more of a wording situation and the way that he talked to me. It was more of his actions and his abilities to make me drop when he said drop. And it is just his the moment he said that that's not how this works, I'm in control, is a moment that I just kind of said, yeah, this is what my life is about to be now. Because I immediately fell in love with that moment in time of being dominated, not because of who it well, not with the person doing it, but with the whole entire situation in general. Now, did I know that that one instance was going to lead me into Jay's arms that taught me a world of bliss? No, I didn't. But it would have to be that one person. Um how do you get off on it? It's not necessarily about myself getting off, it's about getting my dom off, and that's what gets me off. Whenever you're truly into this world, you will get off because your dom gets off. It will be hot to you because your dom is praising you or whatever the situation may be. It is not just that you get in a room and you suck your dom's dick and they do nothing for you. Now, sometimes it can be that way if you're in trouble and you're being punished, but ultimately, submissives have control of the whole situation. You know, Doms maybe be the one taking the actions, but submissives has control over all of it, especially bratty submissives like myself. Um, what can it do to your body after you have a playtime or whatever you're supposed to call it? Um, For me, my body was weak. For me, my body was tired and I was beyond sore. I had bruises, which I mean, it's pretty hot. But I mean, I was just really sore. Mentally, how did it take a toll on me? I mean, it made me become more craved in that kind of way. Like it made me want it more and more and more and more. I think that hydration is a major key, which most daddy doms will make for sure you stay hydrated for these reasons. Because staying hydrated is very good for impact play because it helps your body regulate what it needs to. Next question on the list is how can you trust somebody to do those things to you? Um, Honestly, it's about communication and figuring out the things that they're into and figuring out the level of experience that they have. I know with Jay, it was very obvious that he had a lot of experience in doing the things that he had did to me. And that's why it was so easy to trust him. But also, he was around me 24/7 for the longest of time. So I was able to watch him, watch what he does, find out who he is on a deeper level. And I had immediate trust in him. You just got to get to know your dom. It's not like that you can just meet somebody off a line and he be a dominant person and then you meet up with this person and then they end up killing you because you don't know what their background is and being a dominant. And being dominated can become very, very dangerous, especially if you don't know the person that you're doing it with or they have zero experience, which is why the best thing that you can do is research. Whether that be watching porn videos to you, you know, just sitting on Google for hours and just reading different stories on how Doms punish or how Doms act and how submissive should act if you are trying to become a Dom and vice versa if you're trying to become a submissive. Learn the lingo, you know, communicate, talk about soft limits and hard limits, talk about safe words, aftercare, get, once again, let's pull up 50 Shades of Grey. He has a whole contract listed out of things that he would have wanted to do to her. And then she set her own limits by saying, no, cross this out. This will not happen. This will not happen. And some things are unknown because you don't know what you're willing to take and you don't know your limits. Like with me, I still haven't found my limits and I've put my body through some scary shit with a J. So it's all about just finding out who you are in this world, what you are into, your kinks, but you're never going to find out unless you try some of these things that you're questioning. So, for example, a praise kink, which is one of the questions as well. That is just what it is. It's a praise. So, like if you mowed the yard good, oh, good job. That's praising. But in this instance, it's good girl. Um, do it again. Beg for it. You look so pretty when your mind's turned off and you're just thinking about pleasing daddy. Stuff like that, your mind. Stuff like that in the play space is what a praise kink is. And even just in general, like if I get a message out of random that says good girl, it makes my day because it's just hot. It's just hot. It really is. And that's kind of like what I'm saying is you just gotta figure out some of the things you're into. Like praise is one of my top kinks. And then somebody asked about the degrading kink, which they know I have, which is why these questions are more so being asked more to figure out more into why I'm into them. Right next to a praise kink, I have a degrading kink. Um, just as it sounds, you're degrading somebody. You're nothing more than a worthless slut. The only job you have to do is please daddy because you can't do anything else right. But at the flip side of that, having the right balance of praise with those things, it just hits you differently. Let's see. What is another question? What is temperature play? S- mm, So once again, if you've ever seen 50 Shades of Grey, he puts the ice in his mouth. Temperature play. You're messing with cold and hot. Rather that be hot wax being poured on your body, rather that be an ice cube. That's temperature play. It's a sensation feeling. That's what that is. It's more of a sensation than it is a pain because it's not very painful. What is edging? Edging, I believe I answered this in my last podcast, but I guess I'll answer it again. Edging is to where you are, your Dom is getting you to the point of coming and then he takes it away completely. And he doesn't let you come and he stops doing what he's doing. And then he does it again and he takes it away again. And until he allows you to come, you cannot come. But he is getting you to that point where it's about to happen and then taking his hands away so it doesn't happen. That's edging. Um, what is knife play? So this question has been asked a lot because I have now an obsession with knives due to Jay, which, you know, thank you, Jay. Very much. Thank you. Knife play is it sounds really scary. Trust me, I know. It really does. And it is. It's an adrenaline rush. So I'm going to speak out of my experience with Jay and Z, what knife play kind of brought into, like, what it did to my body. So, knife play is the act of obviously playing with a knife, clearly. It's like the title of what we're talking about here. It is a kink. I believe, I don't know what it's called. I think it would just be knife play kink. But basically, put yourself in the. Mm, do I want to? Yes, put yourself in these shoes. So, say you're in front of whoever you find the most sexually attractive, and say y'all are making out, y'all are getting filling up on each other, you're getting hot, your temperature is rising, and then all of a sudden you feel a cold blade going across your skin. So make you jump, so make you have adrenaline. It's going to give you a sensation. That's it's kind of teetering with temperature play as well because the blade of the knife is going to be cold. Um so in regards to like the danger level of it, it's extremely dangerous. Um I know some people that use actual like sharp like out of your freaking cutting thing for your steak sharp. Um those are doms with a hell of a lot of experience. I know with Jay, he had a play knife. It was still an actual knife. It was just a little duller, but it was still sharp. Like it still cut me, but it didn't cut me to the point where I needed to go to the hospital, obviously, or else I wouldn't have let him do it. Um, and the thing is like I said, it's an adrenaline rush because you know that that thing can hurt you, but you trust the person that you're fucking with, I guess, so much you know that they would never do anything to hurt you to that extent of needing to go to a hospital. Um, somebody had asked with knife play, where does it usually go on? Like, I guess what they're trying to ask is where would a dom use it on your body and anywhere. I've had it go across my throat. I've had it go across my thighs. Every part of my body it's gone across. Um, actually, some doms use knives as a punishment. I find it interesting. Like with Jay, he hates it because a lot of his punishments that he has used on his previous whatever, um, they don't fuck with a lot of this stuff that he does, and I find it freaking sexy. So he's had a whole new experience with me trying to find punishments that actually punish me instead of things that I enjoy. And he's just like, he told me the other day, he was like, it's more of a punishment for me not to punish you because you want to be punished. Because you find everything I do so intoxicating that at this point in time, it's better not to punish you because that is punishing you. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. Pain is pleasure to me. So it kind of, you know, you know. Um, knife play is fun, but do your research on it before you dabble into big boy play because it can become very dangerous. Um, how are you okay with choking or being choked? For one, if anybody knows me, this has been my thing since I was in high school. I have always been obsessed with the idea of somebody choking me. So it's kind of a weird thing because you think about it and being choked has big I guess the stigma between being choked and it being you being suffocated. Um that's the point. Like that is the point. I have been choked to the point where my face was blue and I was about to pass out. And then they let go. But this is all with experience and knowing and reading body language and being able to trust the person you're with because he knew each and every time when exactly to let go. And every single time after I came up from that head rush, he asked me if I was good. He knows where to place his hand so that way he's not crushing my trachea. There's so much to learn. There's so much to look up. There's so much to watch. There's so much to listen to. There's podcasts out here about it who will actually teach you things and how to do things. It's so much more than what you think. Like a dom has to be actually really skilled in order to make things work because you can meet say somebody you meet somebody off of freaking TikTok and he claims to be a dominant. You don't know if that person is just putting on a persona And then whenever you go to meet this person, he chokes you too hard and you actually die. Because it can happen. They can crush I can't even talk right now. They can crush your trachea. Knife play, the knife can cut a little too deep to where you need stitches. Impact play, excuse me guys. That is one of those up there as well that can become very, very dangerous if they're not doing it right. And it's very it's not even the physical damage it can do, it can cause emotional damage too. That's why communication is a huge part into anything that has to do with the BDSM world. That kind of goes in on how to introduce it into your lifestyles conversation. You need to sit down and talk to your significant other about what you are and are not willing to try. Do your research, watch your videos, and then just try it out. I've had friends that have heard my stories that have taken my advice and thanked me for it after. Just saying, instead of looking and this is how I see it. Instead of being ashamed of the I don't know, the demon that's inside of you that wants to come out, I didn't know I was this person. I didn't know that I was going to have an obsession over knives being ran across my skin. I didn't know that I was going to have obsessions with being sexually used. I had no idea. I really didn't until now. And now I do have an idea. And that is never going to go back to a vanilla lifestyle. I crave it too much. And that's another thing I got to say. If you're going to get into this world, just know you are never going to go back. If you find that one thing you enjoy, you will crave it consistently. You will look for a dom in every man that you see. You will look for anything and every I'm telling you it is something else. I'm going to have a friend on this podcast here soon and you'll see what I mean. She'll explain it or he'll explain it depending on which one I bring on here. Um so somebody said I'm really wanting to become more of a submissive or more of a bratty submissive and I know you are one yourself, so can you please help me misbehave? That's a very weird wording of that question. Um Here's this. Just understand the punishments that your dom will hand out if you are trying to be a bratty submissive. And some doms will stop because they're so used to having an actual like good girl submissive, baby girl submissive who will do everything and anything for their dom. And then you get a bratty submissive who tests their dom to their limits because they want to have that pain involved. In regards of like how to act out, I mean, don't do anything he asks you to do. Talk back to him. If he says excuse me, say you're excused, things like that. Um, what is some advice that you can give a submissive if they are in playtime or play sessions that could drive their dom crazy? Eye contact. Eye contact is a very big one that a lot of people tend to forget about. Eye contact. Um, and knowing your manners. So whenever you were in a playtime play space or just in general, depending on how often your dom is your dom instead of just being normal he himself. And for Jay, like that is his lifestyle. So manners, using your sir, your master, your daddy, saying thank you, just overall manners in general, but knowing what to call him at the right times is very important. Um, Advice for a dom from a submissive's point of view, I really don't have anything because that's not my place. So I mean, I would say if you're becoming a dom to do your research like the same thing I've been saying. Just do your research and truly if you're going to become a dom whether you are a man or a woman, know your strength because if you do not know your strength and you go to choke a bitch out, then you're going to fucking kill her. Just saying. Just saying. Okay, so those were the last bit of questions other than my experience. So, before I explain this, I want to go ahead and prepare you guys. I have a lot of people that worried about me after this happened. I had a lot of people who cried for me when this happened. It was 1000% consensual, and I would do it again and again and again. My body was left scarred from this. Like, I legit have the scars. I was bleeding. I had bruises and welts and things like that covering my body. This experience was something else. But I am going to go into detail, but not give too much detail out of respect for my Dom, ex Dom, whatever the hell he is. Um, Out of respect for him, but also respect for myself, because I feel like if I give too much away, I mean, fuck it, I'll just say it all. I don't care. So, first things first, let me explain how we met and how things started. So, basically, it was a few months after my son's father and I broke up, and I had posted something about being a single mom or some shit, and he slid up on it. I personally don't even remember adding him, but I'm glad I did. He slid up and wrote me this long ass something about it. I can't. He remembers all of it, but I don't. Um, and we just kind of started talking. I'm really not for sure how like the daddy dom situation got brought into it, but it did, and I'm glad it did. I wish I can. I really can't recount exactly how everything happened, but we started talking. We both realized, what we were, and it kind of just built on. We were talking for, I think, 3 or 4 days until we finally met. And with that being said, I had basically caused a little bit of trouble because I didn't think that he was who he said he was, but also I didn't realize what I was doing because I was still pretty much new into the submissive role. So I kind of fucked myself a little bit. But I've done it again, yeah. And I would probably brat a little bit worse considering. Anyways, so basically, he had told me, he goes, you've racked up quite a debt with me. So whenever, you meet with me, this is what's going to happen. Well, I ended up meeting with him that first night, and it wasn't like where I was punished or nothing like that to that point, because we were at my aunt's house and we wanted to kind of keep it. I mean, it was definitely rated R, the shit that happened, but I want to get more into like the first ever experience with that. So Jay and I had hung out a fuck ton after that. Well, I think it was like 2 weeks into this situation is whenever our first like playtime happened, or session, or whatever you want to call it. So I had drove to his house. Excuse my guinea pigs. So I had to yell at them. So I drove to his house, and he had given me instruction to move my butt to the passenger seat. So I did. So I waited for him, and I was sitting there, and he came out and he put some shit in the back of my car. I don't remember exactly what it was. I mean, I know what it was, but I don't know what else he had with him. And once again, communication is key. So he asked me, he goes, "Do you trust me?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I think he said, "You can say stop at any time and I'll stop." And I was like, "Yeah." So he was like, "Okay." He blindfolded me and gagged me. And then he drove for, I don't know, 6, 7 minutes. And then we got to where we were going, and it was an empty field. It was a lot easier for us to make things happen in that field versus anywhere else, considering the things that happened. So I had gotten he was saying some stuff, and I really didn't, you know what I mean? At that point I was breathing so heavy, My mind was a little hazy. I was scared, but I was turned on and I was ready and I didn't know what to expect. So I think he smoked a cigarette or something and he talked to me, but I mean, I couldn't respond back to him, because, he got me out of my car and he tied me to my car. And obviously, I'm pretty sure I had just a shirt on at this point. And he came up to me and he was whispering he was whispering things in my ear. He did that, I think, for the pleasure part of it. And then he had an actual cattle whip, like a bull whip, like an actual dead ass bull whip. And you know, he got me with it. And then yeah. So that's as much as that's as much I mean, I sucked his dick after, but that's as much as I'm gonna say after that. Um After everything happened combined, I got up and I finally was like, uh he was like, "So what did you think?" I couldn't talk. I was like, my mind was everywhere, and not in a bad place at all. It was more of I was trying to find the right words. My legs were bleeding. They were burning. I could feel the welts already. I have a video of it. It was pretty bad. I mean, but it was good at the same time. Um, it was interesting to say the least. It really truly was. You have to think that a lot of the times people don't understand why females are into certain things, and it's just, but anyways, so he kept on asking me if I was good and stuff like that, and I mean, I was chilling, obviously I was doing what I could for, being in so much pain. I couldn't really say anything, so he kind of, I think he offered me a cigarette or something and I took it. And then I ended up dropping him off at his home. And well, you know, I drove to the gas station and I hadn't looked at myself in the mirror at all. I really didn't because I was more focused on going to that gas station. That was my main focus, right? So I got there and I had to get gas, and I hadn't smoked like a pack of cigarettes on my own for a long time. I usually just bummed them off of him. So I get to the gas station and I walk in and there's a dude working. He was like, "Holy shit." And I said, "What?" He said, "Have you seen yourself?" I walked into the bathroom, my makeup was running, my face was red as fuck from, being um I had red marks around my throat. I was just my hair was fucked. And he was like, how can I help you? And I was like, "Can I get da on pump, whatever, I don't remember." And then I was like, "Can I get a pack of it?" He goes, "Well, since you're old enough to be fucking doing whatever you just did, yes." I walked out and I started crying. I broke down and I was like, "Holy fuck." I didn't realize until somebody noticed that that's what happened to me how much I enjoyed it. So, I messaged him and told him, but I got home and my poor cousin stayed up waiting on me. And I walked in walking funny, and he was like, he looked at me, he said, "What the fuck?" Like he went in there and woke my aunt up because like he was almost in tears because he was so concerned. And I was just laughing, bro. I could it was I was like, "Damn, I want more. Should I go back?" But anywho, so, mm, 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 mm. The next day, funny story. The next day, oh Jesus Christ, I just got a message. The next day, well, my dad had a party at his house, and I had to wear sweats and a hoodie. And people started asking questions. And so my aunt knew what happened. And my aunt had saw all the marks on my body. and she knew I was wearing a pair of shorts under my sweats. She pulled my shit off, and everybody saw it. And everybody got real scared for me. They're like, did somebody hurt you? I'm like, no, I consented to everything that happened. I would do it again. I finally got everybody calmed down. They just never, and they still don't understand it. But I mean, yeah, I'd go back. Um, One of the questions that I had after I explained my experience was, how did it make me feel after? As I already said, my body was sore, obviously. Mentally, I had craved it more. Now, not a lot of females can be into that kind of thing the way I am, and not to the level that I am, because a lot of people would be like, yo, bro, back up a little bit. Um, like I said, it's not for the lighthearted at all. But if you are willing to try something new and spice something up in your relationship, it doesn't have to go to the extreme like knife play or actual cattle whips. You can go on fucking Temu and order a pair of cuffs or some shit, and you'd be fine. You don't have to go to the extreme. You don't. Start small and then work your way bigger, and then everything will be a okay. But I think I'm gonna end that here because this is gonna be a hella long podcast. I will be posting my next podcast probably tomorrow. So you guys are probably gonna get 2 or 3 back to back, just so that way I'm caught up on what I've missed. The next few will be deeper conversations. I'm gonna be honest with you, they are. Um, and whatever questions linger from this podcast will be answered in the next one as well. So, if you do choose to listen to the next few, just understand that death, miscarriages, drinking, drugs, my rape story, it's all going to be said. So, please be aware. I'm giving a trigger warning now before you click on the podcasts that come after this one. But, anyways, I hope you guys all stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Peace out, bitches.